today. So the materials that you need will really be on the screen. And if you have your Equip for Reading Success book with you, that is great too, but not necessary for today. So I'm happy to see you all. Welcome back from winter break. Will you take a minute and think about where is your preference to spend time? Is it the mountain, the oceans, the desert, the city? Where might your preference be to spend time? And if I have not put an example here that matches your wish, please do type it in. So type in mountains, ocean, desert, city, or something else of where you prefer to spend your time, if you could spend time there. All right, let's see. Oh, farm. Thanks, Pam. I appreciate putting that one in. Good. Mountain and rivers, ocean, 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 ocean. So many oceans in the city. Jade, I was wondering if somebody might put the city. That's great. Mountains, sometimes coast. Awesome. Great job. Lots of mountains and ocean. Disney World. All right, that's good. That's its own place, right? Good for you. Nice job. Mountains, good. Yeah. Beautiful job. I'll wait about 30 more seconds. See if there's anybody else. Welcome to those of you who just joined. We are typing in whether we'd like to spend our time at the mountains, the ocean, the city, the desert, or some other place. And some folks have put in Disney World and the forest and a farm, which was great. Beautiful job. All right, here we go. So today's work, thank you to everyone who joined us. Today's work is really about a diagnostic in terms of phonological assessment, phonological awareness. And we've been working out of the Equipped for Reading Success book the entire year in our collaboration calls. And this section is about assessment related to that work. So we'll talk about it, we'll look at some pieces of it, and then of course, as usual, we will have some time for you to talk with your colleagues. So that is our focus for the day. So there are really two resources that you will see on the Padlet today. Well, really one on the Padlet and then one is your book, Equipped for Reading Success. So the Phonological Awareness Screening Test, or the PAST, is an assessment that comes right out of your book. It was developed by David Kilpatrick, and I believe we have put a copy on the Padlet for you as well. If not, I will double check it and make sure that it is there. We've been talking about phonological awareness all year, and we know that that research is very clear. With students who have good phonological awareness are in a great position to become good readers, while students who struggle with poor phonological awareness may almost always struggle with reading. And that's something we've been talking about all year long, and it is the basis of our work today. Also, as David Kilpatrick says, poor phonological awareness is the most common cause for poor reading. And we are of poor reading, actually. We have been talking about the triangle. We've been talking about the ramifications for underdeveloped phonological awareness. And I want to actually be very specific on this slide. David Kilpatrick speaks about underdeveloped phonemic awareness. So we talk about phonological awareness, which is the big umbrella. It is the triangle that goes from isolation up through manipulation. And then very specifically, underdeveloped phonemic awareness, being able to hear and isolate the phonemes, being able to identify them, being able to produce them, being able to manipulate them, meaning add them, drop them, delete them, omit, delete or omit, substitute. That an underdeveloped phonemic awareness, very precise sounds, make it very difficult for students to become good readers and good writers. So we know that the very first part of writing or spelling is being able to hear each individual sound. So for example, a second grader might write fog for frog because they actually don't hear that second phoneme, or jup for jump because they actually didn't hear and identify that third phoneme of the and they left that out. So sometimes combinations of phonemes can be very challenging for students, and we want to be sure that they can do all of the work at the phoneme level. That's really where the magic is. The syllable level, the word level, they are important, but what the research has been seeing over time is that this comes from the Teaching Phoneme Awareness from 2022, a guide for educators. That's also on it's been on a previous Padlet for us. So the magic is really in the phoneme. From phoneme awareness to phonemic proficiency. This is something I really love us to give some thought to today. From phonemic awareness, meaning I can hear the sounds, I can identify them, I can omit them, I can substitute them, but not automatically. So these three bullets talk about the idea of instantaneous, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past. Instantaneous access to the sounds without any cognition or effort. So if I say jump, instantly you could say jump instantly. It is an instant unconscious access to every phoneme in the right position of a spoken word. And so the effort is zero. If there is a conscious effort required, that student is not phonemically proficient. So when you are getting ready to spell and you're getting ready to spell the word frog, instantly your brain should say frog without even having an awareness. And then you represent those phonemes with that spelling pattern. So there is phonemic awareness, but today we're going to talk about the idea of phonemic proficiency. And the word that I hook with that really is instantaneous recall, instantaneous work. So phonemic proficiency goes well beyond what we test in our universal screening or in our ISIP or even in our iStation. By and large, we test phoneme segmentation. Sometimes we test initial sound fluency in some measures, but really, let's look at what it takes to go from fly to fry in a second. It takes 4 steps. So I have to hear fly, I have to pull all those sounds apart. I have to isolate the sound of the ol and take it out. Then I have to substitute it, put back the and then blend it back together with the new sound. So if I say the word is fly, change the ol to what's the word? The student has to do those 4 steps instantaneously for phonemic proficiency. We don't really measure that when we do phoneme segmentation fluency, when we work with initial sound fluency, or in most of our universal screeners. So today we're going to talk about how we would assess this for students we are uncertain about. So we know that kids do not learn, some kids do not learn phonological awareness naturally. And if they're only taught to the level of segmenting and blending, that is likely where their development stops. So as we think about this, with PSF, phoneme segmentation, it measures segmentation, right? If we only stop there, and measure there, then we likely have kids who are not moving all the way up to manipulation. So when we think about using data, using phonological awareness data, we likely need another assessment that measures all of the other phonological, but really phonemic skills, and checking for phonemic proficiency. So you may have, I'm going to stop for a minute. You may have already begun to use a phonological awareness assessment that measures all of the phonological and particularly phonemic skills. You may already be doing that. Will you type into the chat box if you are already, for students you are concerned about, if you are already using some type of and it's more diagnostic than a screener because it's not normed, will you type into the chat box about how you catch those students and go beyond phonemic blending and phonemic segmentation? Will you type that in? Well, if you are doing that, will you please type it in? And Missy, can I call on you for a minute? Would you share a little bit about what you are currently doing with assessing kids for phonemic proficiency? If you don't mind.
Our ELA coaches have created a great diagnostic tool, and our preferred area is Hagerty.
Okay.
Or to move in that direction, and it's fast paced, it's quick, and the kids seem to love it, and they catch on really quickly.
Beautiful, thank you. And so are you using that diagnostic assessment to decide who needs Hagerty? How are you using it?
Yeah, so any student that comes in contact, in kindergarten, we try to do everyone. Good. But as we move forward, it's any student that teachers have concern, and we always diagnose down so that we can, well, in kindergarten and first grade, we diagnose up. So we start at the base and move forward, and then making those decisions on what program to place them in. But finding a lot of it is Hagerty and oral language.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Missy. So Jade, thank you for typing in as well. Can you talk a little bit about your response? It sounds like you use Hagerty, and I don't know if that's the Hagerty placement assessment or if that is the Hagerty materials, and then you use the past diagnostic. Can you talk a little bit, Jade?
Yeah, so we've done the past diagnostic originally, and then we also use the Hagerty placement to see where our kids are supposed to be there, and then we use that during our lessons.
Excellent. So you do both?
We have, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do you find a difference when you give the past? And I'm trying to think about efficiency here. When you give the past, do you find that you get any further information from Hagerty, or would you be able to just use the Hagerty placement assessment?
I mean, I guess it really depends on what it is you're trying to do. For us, I used the past previously before I had access to the Hagerty stuff, and now I have the Hagerty stuff, so I do the Hagerty stuff.
Awesome.
But the Hagerty stuff makes more sense with our progress monitoring to help us make sure we're on the right track with our kiddos.
Yes, and that's actually why I asked you that question is sometimes we have to streamline a little bit, right? So if you have not given the Hagerty placement assessment before, the past is an amazing measure because it will tell you those very same spots. And Hagerty will do the same thing. It will just give you a spot of where to start to teach. Good job. Thanks so much, Jade. Appreciate that. Jamie, how about you? I appreciate your last comment there about giving the past and then in terms of dyslexia screening. So can you talk a little bit, Jamie, about your comment there?
Okay, making sure I have everything on.
Yeah, you're good.
So at the beginning of the year, we look at those that we're referring to our tier 3 students. And because we're using pathways materials, we do give the past to each one of those children. Okay. And if we have someone we're kind of wondering, or we have new kids coming in that we haven't seen before and we're not sure about it, we might give them, I've given them this just to make sure, is that an issue or not? So we've done that also. And in the dyslexic screening, we ran all our students through the RAN, and then those who were yellow and red on that's where we came back and we did the past with all of them to see was phonemic awareness another issue with them.
Excellent. So your first was to give them a RAN, which is rapid automatized naming, so that you could see, is there a potential instantaneous processing issue, which was excellent. And then you had some kids where you needed to potentially go back and double check their phonemic awareness. Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jamie. All right, Melanie. So Melanie, you are in a 3-5 school. Can you talk a little bit about, so it looks like you use 95% for your phonics intervention. Awesome. And you use the phonics screener for that program. And then kids who were flagged from Ice Station or the screener, you give the phonics screener. Excellent. Are there any kids, Melanie, that you might need to give the PAST, which would be the phonological diagnostic? Are there any students who come up struggling on your phonics screener that you may need to go back and even do some phonemic work with them? I'm just wondering if you have found that there may be kids, and I like that comment that K1 we diagnose up and 2 and above we diagnose back. So I'm wondering, Melanie, if there were any kids you felt like you needed to kind of go back to the phonemic proficiency for and see if that might be something to look out for them. Beautiful job, everyone. Thank you for those of you who wrote in and shared. That was exactly what we were hoping to hear, was how you have been doing that work. So let's take a look at the PAST assessment a little bit. It is based on phonological manipulation, meaning that it has tucked into it segmentation, isolation, blending, omission, deletion, substitution, addition. And it really looks at the automaticity of phonemic phoneme proficiency. Bullet number 2 is one of my favorite things about this assessment. And as I work with my grandson, which you know is dyslexic, as I work with him, I was encouraged that he could do phonemic work. And then once I learned about this idea of instantaneous phoneme proficiency, I was nervous because I knew he could do the work. I did not know if it was instantaneous. So as I gave him this assessment, it was actually very exciting. I found that his phonemic proficiency had become instantaneous. So bullet number 2 for me was a new bullet, because I had been looking through the lens, can they do the phonemic skills, and were they able to do them? But I hadn't looked through the lens of instantaneous and automaticity. So this assessment takes about 4 to 9 minutes to give to each individual student. And it's keyed into the instructional program that has been developed by David Kilpatrick. So it's keyed into those 1-minute lessons at the end of the Equipped for Reading Success book. So you would see sections of the assessment that are directly related to those 1-minute phonemic activities that he has in the book. However, it can be a standalone assessment. And if you don't have a phonological diagnostic, this is a really good one to have. It's not normed. It has been looked at with many students. It has been standardized, meaning calibrated, so that the responses and the expectations for students would be the same. It has been calibrated or standardized, but it's not normed. It hasn't been tested for reliability and validity. However, its attributes are more diagnostic than it is a screener. So that's okay. So you will find this assessment in Appendix C of your book. There are 4 forms, A, B, C, D, allowing for progress monitoring, or really monitoring progress a few times a year. So here are a couple of things that we found when you're going to give this assessment, or really any phonemic proficiency assessment. The first one is to carefully read the directions of the assessment and not adjust them. Do them as written. So the recommendations for the PASS assessment come in chapter 11. In chapter 12, there is some work on pronouncing the phonemes in isolation. And what does that look like? How are they pure? So that we and the students, we have clarity about ourselves and the students producing the phonemes correctly. And a recommendation is to practice on someone before you give it. There are no practice items for students. So we give feedback for each incorrect item. So that functions like a practice item. However, it's still involved in the scoring. So we really suggest that folks who are going to give the PASS assessment practice on someone before they step into giving that assessment, because there are no practice items for kids. And the only part of practice is when we give feedback to them about an incorrect item. All items are timed and this is different than some other phonological assessments. So I want to double check with Jade and Missy. I don't think the Hegarty placement assessment is timed, but I want to double check. Can one of you verify for that for me? Is the Hegarty assessment timed?
I don't believe so, but maybe I'm doing it wrong. That's highly plausible, folks. Don't trust me.
That's just my response too. I don't think it is timed. And that's one of the differences between Hegarty and PASS. So if you're going to use the Hegarty assessment as kind of your placement and your diagnostic, a consideration would be to count in your head 1001, 1002. Yeah, thanks, Andrea. Hegarty has practice items. Great. Go ahead.
This is Missy. What I always encourage my teachers to do, if they haven't given the assessment in a long time, to give it to an at-target student in their classroom so they can get that comfortable feeling of how fast a child answers those questions correctly. Because as teachers, we often have that big heart and we'll be like, "Oh, that's close enough." No, it's got to be automatic, and you need to hear what a student at grade level, how they would answer.
I really love that recommendation, because if you only give it to struggling students, it kind of becomes the norm, right? Kind of becomes the norm that there is a hesitation. I really love that, giving it to a student that you think is phonemically proficient, to get the rhythm and the hum of what that would look like if that child were giving those responses. I love that. May I borrow that and share that with other folks? That was great. Thanks, Missy. So even if you're going to give the Hegarty assessment, it's important to think about phonemic proficiency. You don't really score it differently in Hegarty. You still give them the same score. They don't need to have that phonemic proficiency in Hegarty to complete that assessment. They do for the PASS assessment. So if you're going to use PASS as your diagnostic for phonemic proficiency, do count in your head 1001, 1002, because the instantaneous response for each of the items that you're giving should be able to be done within 2 seconds. And I noticed when I was working with this with Hudson, he slipped in right at the second every time. So he really very rarely was able, even at the 1001. And had I not counted 1001, 1002, I would not have been sure that he was phonemically proficient. So those are some recommendations. And this PowerPoint will be up on the Padlet in case you want to go back and look at some of these recommendations. So this is what the assessment looks like. What we would like you to do, will you type in for a minute? Will you just type in for a second if you have your Equipped for Reading Success book with you? Yes, you have it, or no, you don't. All right, let me see. Not currently. Yep. Yes. Don't apologize. It's okay. All right. So let's do it this way. We will, I'm going to put some breakout rooms together, and there will be 5 of you. Actually, I think I'm going to do it this way. All right. So here's what I'd like you to do. The assessment of automaticity is on page 95 and 96. How you repeat an item or your pacing or how to provide feedback is on page 96. The routine to speed the administration, how do you go quickly through the administration, is also on page 96. And then the discontinue rule and scoring the assessment are on page 97 and 98. I think based on our time today, I want to give you some time to talk a little bit and share. But I would love it if you would, in the next bit, if you are looking at either giving the past assessment or looking at it for your assessment, if you don't have one, great. If you don't have one, a phonemic phonological assessment, this one is a good one to use. So now you know that looking at assessment, page 95 and through 97 and a little bit of 98. So we're going to hop on for a second, pass by this, but I do want you to know that that there's some guidance in there for you in terms of how you repeat, how you pace, what's the feedback, discontinue rule, speeding up the administration, and how you score it. So then here's how you think about the data. So you will get a score that looks in the D1 or D2. And then that relationship, that goes back to the materials that David Kilpatrick has in the book. So when you see this, interpreting the past data, then you'll know that it goes back to the levels that David Kilpatrick is speaking about in the past assessment. All right, so then you can see here what this looks like when you're administering it. So here's the level D portion of the assessment. You say bookcase, now say bookcase, but don't say book. So I say it this way, say bookcase. Now say bookcase, but don't say book. And then you make him the mark whether that child has the correct answer. Say silver, but don't say sill. So the part in parentheses you don't say. So it's not a difficult assessment to give, really. You just look through these, each of the items, and it will tell you exactly what to say to students. And then it gives you that range of about when students should be able to master this level. So you'll have kind of an idea of that as well. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I want you to, if you have your book, I would love you to turn to pages 95, 96, 97, 98, and talk to your partners about anything on those pages that you feel is helpful for you, or talk about how you have used these assessments or how you might use these assessments. I'm not going to structure this super tightly for you because I want you to get a chance to talk with partners about what they are doing. You have many folks who are doing some good work. And if you haven't started this particular piece yet, now you have some folks who can you can talk with. So if you happen to be in a group by yourself already, just don't join the group or bring yourself out of it, and you may talk amongst yourselves. I know some of you are sitting as groups. Yeah, so I was not going to put you into manual groups, but let me see if I can do that. Let me see if I can put you into groups. It's tricky. Let me see. All right, so will you type into the chat box if you are in Hayburn? So I see all kinds of different folks. Okay, we're going to do this a different way. I'm going to actually put you into random groups so you can talk about with folks across the group, and then we'll come back together. All right, here we go. Few minutes to talk about phonological awareness and how you have been assessing it or how you would like to assess it. All right, here we go. Hi, Charles. Do you need some assistance? Or are you doing just fine?
I don't know about Charles, but I'm up here. I think I bumped myself out.
I think you did. And your thing said Charles. That's so weird.
Well, Charles is there too. He's underneath me, but I'm up above you on my screen, but there's a Charles on the screen too.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah, I see that now. All right,
Right.
so let me, what group are you in? Does it matter for you?
St. Mary's.
All right, let's see. I had you.
I was with Jennifer Miller and all those because that's St. Mary's Hayburn.
Yep. Can you go down to the bottom of your screen on your bar and place, click on more and see if you, or breakout rooms, and see if you see the word join?
Yes.
Okay, great. Can you click join?
Okay.
All right. That should take you. And something that was meaningful for you in the chat box. I mean, in the breakout room, sorry. Great, thanks. I see some of you typing. Oh, good. The 1 minute activities. Yes, they're really helpful. If you don't have other phonological or phonemic activities to be able to do those yes, great. Thanks, Hayburn, too. Those, the 1 minute activities in David's book are really great. Layering in the automaticity into your Hegarty assessment. Awesome job, Andrea. That's just a really important consideration. Doesn't really change the score for the Hegarty assessment, but it does tell us whether or not that is instantaneous and automatic. Beautiful. Love it. Good. Learned about adding rapid naming. 3, excellent job. Not sure how they were screening. Beautiful. Excellent work. Nice. Differing results from the RAND assessment as a part of the screener for older kids. Talked about that. Beautiful, Ramona. Awesome, 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 awesome. All right, so our goal today was to just bring phonological awareness and particularly phonemic proficiency back forward. Talk about the assessment that you have already in your book if you need one, if you haven't been giving one. Remind ourselves about that instantaneous work, 1001, 1002, because that tells us whether that proficiency is there. And then have a chance where we talk to each other about what you're doing and how you might think about it. So really beautiful job today. I know you have had long, busy days. So I am going to move this out of the way for your QR code today. Welcome back after winter break, everybody. You're like, wait, no, it's not spring. Welcome back from winter break, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Hopefully we gave you a quick shot in the arm to remind ourselves again about phonological awareness and phonemic proficiency. If you would take a minute and click on that link or use the QR code to be able to record your attendance today, that would be fantastic. And we really appreciate your work. Hopefully we got in and did some good work that was quick for you today. Take care of yourselves in the rest of this winter month, and we will see you. We get to be on site in February. We are so excited. St. Mary's the last week of January and February 1, and then forward for the month of February. So we are so excited to see you all. There are no calls in February because of our site visits, so we'll resume our next call in March. So we're looking super forward to seeing you on site. So after you have done your attendance, everybody, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your work and hope you have a marvelous day.